On Larry King Now, Jon M Chu.
It's the first time in 25 years this has happened, which is insane. And I think it's the first time ever for like a romantic comedy to have Asian leads.
Do you think Sandra Oh's Emmy nomination for Killing Eve is a sign of more positive things?
Oh, absolutely. All these people are sitting there and fresh blood coming too. And not just in front of the camera, behind the camera as well. And that's just as important.
Plus, was Steven Spielberg one of your mentors?
He discovered me. One day, I literally got a call from Mr. Spielberg saying, hey, I saw your short and I want to talk to you about it.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our guest today is Hollywood director Jon M Chu, known for his work on the visually stunning Step Up movies and, of course, the Justin Bieber documentary Never Say Never. Jon's latest directorial feature is Crazy Rich Asians, with a groundbreaking all-Asian cast. Critics are saying this could be the movie that saves the summer romantic comedy. Jon joins us in our studio. What is Crazy Rich Asians all about? It's got to be a comedy.
It is a comedy. It's a family drama. It's a lot of nuttiness based off a really popular book by Kevin Kwan. And it's about a Asian American woman who teaches at NYU and is dating this guy, and he invites her to Singapore for his best friend's wedding. And what she doesn't know is he's part of the richest family in Singapore. And so when she lands in Singapore, all the exes, socialites, family members are all after her to get her out because she's this American girl there. So it's just this really fun sort of romp of what happens there.
Did the writer have anything to do with the movie?
Yeah, he was very involved. I love Kevin. He's and he grew up in Singapore and lived in one of these families, so any insight I needed, he was great at. And we have Michelle Yeoh, who is amazing, playing Nick Young's mother, who's the guy's mom, and she is just spectacular in this.
You shot in Singapore?
We shot in Singapore and Malaysia, so.
All right, you're Asian.
Yes.
The cast is all Asian.
Yes. And it's Hollywood. Can you believe it?
Is that historic?
It's the first time in 25 years this has happened, which is insane. And I think it's the first time ever for like a romantic comedy to have Asian leads. So
what studio produced it?
It's Warner Brothers.
Did they offer any objection? Did they say we got to get a Natalie Wood type?
No, this was, it's really amazing. The internet and Twitter and all that pressure from people of different types of perspectives, of stories these days, especially in the movie business, really, I think, opened their eyes. And so when we came to them with this project, they were amazingly open to it. I've never experienced, I've been in the business for 10 years now and seen all the discussions, seen all those excuses, and it was the first time that there was no excuse, and they were all in. I think it has to do a lot with the book and with the fans of the book, but also I think the wave of change that we're in, and it's hallelujah. It's amazing to be able to do that.
Did you have a big casting call?
Huge. That was one of the big things, and I learned this from Lin-Manuel Miranda, of reading an article about him, that the casting is you have to spend more money, you have to spend more time, and you have to have more people on the ground because the opportunities aren't there for these actors in other roles, in other more expansive roles. They don't have the experience or even the access to get to us. We see the same 10 people all the time. So and it's not a matter that they're not there, it's a matter that they don't have that platform. So we had people in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, in Vancouver, in Beijing, in Shanghai, in London, in Australia, here, in New York, all around the world to go find this.
Big budget?
Decent budget. I wouldn't say a huge budget, but enough to do a Crazy Rich Asian world.
Was Steven Spielberg one of your mentors?
He discovered me.
How did that happen?
So I was going to USC, film school here, and I did a bunch of shorts. And one of the shorts was this musical called When the Kids Were Away. It was a musical about mothers, a silly little thing. And this was before YouTube, before online stuff. And so I had a VHS tape of it that we would send out to the agencies and stuff. And one day I literally got a call from Mr. Spielberg saying, "Hey, I saw your short and I want to talk to you about it." So we met. That was an insane meeting for two hours and talked about musicals. And then he bought my first project. And when Steven does that, the whole town pays attention. I was 22 years old. So that changed my life, for sure. And I got to go visit him on set, and he would talk about the shot that he's doing and why he's doing it. So it was like the world's best interactive DVD feature.
You were a tap dancer, right?
I mean, if you ask my mother, yes, I'm an amazing tap dancer. If you ask anybody else, I took tap for 10 years.
Did you dance ever professionally?
No, never. I'm not that good. I hung out with all of the dancers, and that's, I think, why I got into dance-type movies.
What got you into movies?
You know, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My parents have a restaurant in Palo Alto, and we would go on these vacations. And when you're the youngest and everybody's loud and crazy, they gave me the camera, and I got to shoot stuff with all my crazy family members. And one day I bought this little mixer. I think I was like 10 years old maybe, yeah, 10 years old, and I got the VHS players and cut it all together and made my first film. And when I showed it to my mom and dad, they cried. And it was the first time I felt like I ever had a voice. And
wow.
From then on, I knew I was going to do that for the rest of my life.
They tell me one of the most striking things in the movie is the Chinese covers of American pop singers, like Madonna's Material Girl.
Yes, yes. My generation, Asian American, first generation living here, my parents came from China or Taiwan, came over here. We have this mixed identity. I grew up in an all-American school from kindergarten through high school, so I feel I wasn't around a lot of Asian people as well. So I feel very, very, going to Asia for the first time was a very interesting experience for me. You feel like, wow, this is the guy at the store is treating you like a son or a cousin, and yet it's not your place either. So I love this sort of intermix of pop, American pop, and cultural identity where you're from. And so we really wanted to show that in the movie, and music was a great way to do that.
Now, I understand it with 3 books. Is there going to be more movies?
You know, I hope so. If the audience shows up, which I think is really important, if the audience shows up, not just our movie, but other movies with other perspectives, Asian leads will come out of this. I know a lot of them are in studios right now on the line, and they're waiting to see how that opening weekend does.
When does it open?
August 15th.
I'll be there.
Thank you. Please.
Our guest is Crazy Rich Asians director Jon M Chu. We're talking about Asian Americans in Hollywood and more after the break. His movie, Crazy Rich Asians, opens August 5th. Well, the movie's going to open in August. I will be there. I can't wait to see it. It looks like it's going to be a hit. Critics have said romantic comedies are dead. Are you fighting? Are you doing Quixote's windmills?
I loved romantic comedies growing up. While You Were Sleeping, My Best Friend's Wedding. I grew up on Disney fairy tale animated stuff, so to me, I believe I'm a huge believer in love, and I think more than ever in this world we need love, and I think people are thirsty for it and looking for it, and maybe because of other things that are happening in the world, and people want to escape to go to the bigger movies, but something like a romantic comedy, I think it's always going to be around, even if it's tinier, and I think it's coming back strong.
Why did it go down?
I think that people are distracted. I think that there's a lot of things to be entertained with, and when you go to the movies, you want an event to be there, and I think also the perspectives got the same over and over again, with an Asian cast, with this perspective of an Asian American going to Asia for the first time, meeting the family, going through all those trials. You get a new way of seeing the story that you want and that fills your heart. So I think this will change the dialogue for sure.
Who are some of the stars?
Constance Wu from Fresh Off the Boat, who's just a badass. Michelle Yeoh, the legend, of course. We have Awkwafina, who's an amazing rapper. She was in Ocean's 8 just recently. And we discovered this guy, Henry Golding, who's never been in anything. He's our lead love in this.
Where'd you find him?
In Singapore. Our accountant was working there. We were setting up our office. We looked all around the world, thousands and thousands of people. And our accountant there was like, hey, you should, I saw this guy present an award 5 years ago. You should look at him. All the girls in the office love him. So I looked him up on Instagram, of course, cyber stalked him, and he had a travel show, and he was doing all these interviews with people, and he was just so good, so naturally cool, not trying to be cool. And he had this amazing British accent, which Nick Young in our movie has. And so we called him up and asked him to see if he can do some lines, and he had to leave his honeymoon to do it. And he's a star. He's amazing in this movie.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
How do you think Asians and Asian Americans are represented on television and in movies now?
I think we're in a transition. I think things are changing. I think growing up, I didn't have a lot of people to look to. I saw Chinese actors doing Chinese things, but the Asian Americans specifically, maybe like Rufio in Hook back in the day, we don't have a lot of heroes, especially Asian men, to look up to that are the ones that we want to be like. And so I think we're usually the nerd. We're usually like the computer technician or the unattractive person. Females are usually just the sex vixen. So I think our movie is great because we have a variety of different characters in this and many layers, and they're human beings, and that's what we really want to do.
Do you think Sandra Oh's Emmy nomination for Killing Eve is a sign of more positive things?
Oh, absolutely. I can feel not just her presence. There's so much talent out there, so many people we couldn't put in this movie. Jon Cho, Randall, Park, all these people are sitting there, and fresh blood coming too, and not just in front of the camera, behind the camera as well. And that's just as important because those stories have to be written, those stories have to be told, they have to be greenlit. To me, all those pieces are happening now. And the rooms that I go in, when I pitch like, hey, what if this character were Asian? It's no longer like an immediate shutdown. It's actual a discussion and debate, which is really great.
Scarlett Johansson got a lot of flack. She was going to play an Asian in The Ghost in the Shell. Asian character. Now she's dropped out of a film where she's going to play a trans character.
Yeah.
Are we on the move here? Are we going up?
You know what's great about technology is that it opens the discussion up, that we're no longer in a bubble and we can't play naive anymore. And so to feel empathy for people when they communicate the pain that something feels from your actions, I think is really important because it calls on you to act. And so when you call out actors, I've been called out on my films for certain things that I was naive about. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you are racist. It doesn't mean any of those things, although that could mean that. But I think it's more of just calling people out to be aware of what their actions actually mean and what we as filmmakers and storytellers, our responsibility to pass on to the next generation.
You have a real challenge coming. You're going to direct the Thai soccer team.
Yes.
That got saved in the caves. Getting them out was an incredible story. Mm-hmm. One of the problems in those kind of things, there was a story about that cave-in of other miners.
Yes.
Is that no one went to the movie because people knew how it came out.
Yes.
How do you build suspense when we know they get out?
Truth. I think that we don't know everything that happened. We don't know what happened in those 9 days that those kids were in there. We don't know what happened when the emergency guys got the call, where they were. There's so many stories integrated.
On the guy that died.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that those stories, we'll find out those stories. I don't even know them right now. All my positioning in that story is just to protect the story, to make sure that it's told in a fair way, that it's not just some foreigner coming in to save the day, but that the people who are there get their say as well of what happened.
Are Thai actors?
We'd love to do that stuff. So it's a little early right now.
Better.
Oh, of course, for sure. But you know, it's a little early to talk about all the things. I think it's early to even talk about a movie in that way. But I just wanted to make sure that we were protecting sort of what the history would be written. We don't know yet. But of course, that would be. I think it'd make sense to be there for sure.
Director Jon M Chu tells her what it was like working with Justin Bieber, and we'll play a little game of If You Only Knew. And don't forget the movie Crazy Rich Asians will open August 15th. We'll be right back. We're back with Jon M Chu. His big movie Crazy Rich Asians will open August 15th. You directed the Justin Bieber documentary Never Say Never. How did that come about?
I got a call one day from Scooter Braun, his manager.
Know him well.
Yes, he's a great guy. I actually introduced him to his wife, and he introduced me to my wife. I'm getting married next week. So it's a crazy full circle. So Justin actually probably has a huge responsibility in connecting my life and finding my life partner. But it was through Scooter that I got that. And I was doing the dance movies, and I think they had seen those and wanted to see how to redo the documentary in a way for Justin.
I like Justin a lot.
Yeah, he's a great
He
kid.
had some misunderstandings in his growing up phase, but now he's engaged, right?
Yeah, I'm so happy for him, and he deserves all the happiness. He's one of those people who believe in love completely, and unabashedly believes in love. And being around him, it's contagious when you're around him.
All right, John, we play a little game of If You Only Knew.
Okay.
What keeps you up at night?
If my child is okay, because she's sleeping in the other room. So these days, it's all about that.
Is there a movie that made you want to be a director?
E.T. I remember, it's probably one of my earliest memories of a movie, and I remember people crying and laughing and going home and playing with the toys, and I just thought the contagiousness of imagination was so, and family and love was so beautiful that it always stuck with me, even to this day.
What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure is probably my obsession with Justin Bieber.
You are obsessed with him?
I didn't know anything about him going into the documentary.
Really?
Since then, I just think he's such a good kid, and I root for him every day.
Strangest job you've ever had?
I was a PA on this music video for Nelly Furtado back. It was my one and only PA job, and I got there in the morning, and they were doing a swamp. So they built this giant swamp, and the swamp is just clear water. So they had 16 tons of acorn powder. I don't even know what that is. Threw it on the water, and they gave me a stick. And so for like 14 hours, I stirred this acorn powder into the water, and I decided I'm never PAing ever again. And I'm only going to direct.
That's a strange job. What do you wish you were better at?
I wish I was better being a better friend and and lover and family member. I think that sometimes when you're an artist and you get into your work, you're very focused on that, and I think that's what makes me breathe. But at the same time, people are the most important thing in this world, and connection with them. And so I often sometimes forget about that in creating stuff for people.
What's your go-to-dance movie?
Footloose, Grease, Singing in the Rain, those West Side Story. Those
They don't make them anymore.
They don't make them like that anymore, that's for sure.
Who would you trade places with for a day?
I would trade you. I mean, come on, look at all the people that you get to meet, that you get to talk to.
61 years.
61 years. That is, if I love something for 61 years, that's what I wish for my life.
I'm honored. Do you have a secret talent?
I can draw. I don't know if that's a secret talent, but I love to draw. I used to want to be an animator and go to CalArts. I once went on this tour to Disney World, and they have a tour. They used to have a tour of the Disney animators, and they were writing stuff, and they have these little name tags. So I wrote the guy's name down. I was like 9 years old, and every time I drew a picture at home, I would send it to Disney World, Walt Disney World, with this guy's name on it. And one day I got a call. This was for like 6 months. I sent all my drawings. Got a call one day, and it was them at Walt Disney World being like, "Hey, dude, just to let you know, we got all your drawings, and we love them, and just so you know, we got them all." And so I was so excited, and from then on, I knew there was hope that I could make it somehow.
Maybe you'll make an animated film.
Maybe.
What's your favorite food?
Chinese food. I grew up in a Chinese restaurant.
Your father owns one, right?
Yeah. For next year, it's his 50th year. Chef Chu's in Palo Alto, and I grew up in there. All my soccer games, basketball games, that's where I ate. So it's a part of me. I sweat soy sauce. So.
Childhood celebrity crush?
Britney Spears. I loved Britney.
Not bad.
Yeah, and maybe Blossom. I did love Blossom.
Our guest today is director Jon M Chu, and he's taking your questions from social media. Coming up next, his movie, Crazy Rich Asians, will open August 15th. Stay with us. We're back with Jon M Chu. He's directed Crazy Rich Asians. Well, you're going to do Hamilton, right?
No, I'm doing In the Heights, which is Lin-Manuel Miranda, his first musical that won the Tony. And it's an amazing, amazing musical about Washington Heights in New York. So to be able to work with that genius at this time, and we're shooting it in Washington Heights, is going to be really, really great.
Some social media questions for you.
Yes.
Asian social network on Twitter If you could make any film about the Asian American experience, what type of film would you make?
Well, I think Crazy Rich Asians is the perfect blend of those things. It's my journey, but done in a fictional, fantastical way of the rich, even though it's not about being rich. So I think using that vehicle to tell my experience being an Asian American has been a great sort of vehicle for that, for sure.
Another person at the Asian Social Network on Twitter, knowing and navigating the film industry, what's your advice to up-and-coming Asian American filmmakers?
Make things. I say this to any filmmaker. You got to make things. If you're a writer, you write. If you're a director, you direct. There's nothing that can stand in your way anymore. You have a camera on your phone. You have a camera that you can borrow. You can edit. You can release it. You only get better by actually just doing it. 60 years, I'm sure you've gotten better every year.
Yes.
And although maybe you were just born with it. But I do think that for filmmaking, you rarely get a chance to gather. It's such a team effort to gather that group and to figure out how to work with people. Any filmmaker out there, just make it. You don't have to ask permission.
Ish Megan on Twitter. How do you think Crazy Rich Asians will impact popular and common views and stereotypes of Asians and Asian Americans? How will it affect the Asian American narrative?
I think it can do it two ways. One, just the movie itself. I think when you see our cast, the broad sort of breadth of characters, from Nico Santos to Jimmy O Yang, Ronnie Chang, all these people who are comedians and other people who are dramatic actors. Some people are legends. I think just by itself will, and they're so confident. There's no apology for how they are. I think that will give other Asian Americans confidence, because I could feel it, even just being around those actors, to be who they are, and that they are worth a $20 ticket to go sit in the dark and hear a story from. I think the other thing, which I think is really important, is that people have to show up that opening weekend. The message, there's something about, okay, the movie is, I'm really proud of the movie, I think people enjoy it, but if the movie performs financially, then other movies will have the opportunity, and we don't have to wait another 25 years, and we don't have to depend everything on just this one narrative. There's so many more stories and so many things that need to be told, and those people who are way more talented than I am are coming, and we just need to crack that door so that they can be heard.
Is Warner Brothers really behind it?
Absolutely. More than, there was no promises, there was no guarantee. I think when they saw the movie and we showed it to an audience for the first time, and there were groups of people crying afterwards about what this means to them, I think a light bulb switched on, and they're more dedicated than, that's why they got In the Heights, because I think they know that the future of movies is new perspectives of telling these stories.
Enthusiasm85 on Twitter. Where were your favorite locations to shoot? What were some of the best behind-the-scenes moments on set?
Singapore was amazing. We shot a lot in Malaysia, which was gorgeous, but when you're at the top of the Marina Bay Sands, which is this giant building with basically a boat floating above the whole city, we booked out the whole thing. You can't just book it out with money. You have to get through the politics and everything. So we got the whole floor at the middle of the night, the whole pool. We have synchronized swimmers in the pool itself. We are partying with the whole cast at the end of the movie, and everyone's having this great time. Michelle Yeoh is there. My mom, who adores her, is there. They're drinking. They're getting drunk on the corner. I'm trying to make sure that we don't get Michelle too drunk. That moment when we're all together, and it was one of our last few days together, and looking at each other and realizing, wow, we did this. We made this movie. It's going to be released in theaters, just as any Hollywood movie would be. I think it was very emotional for everybody.
You've really got me going to this.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Live Philosopher on Twitter. What's the best way to encourage more Asian actors?
It's a hard one. You know, you have to, just as an actor itself, you have to have that drive. You have to have that thing inside you that you can't do anything but want to act. You have to have that thing that's going to, when you're not working, when everyone's out at a party and you're working on your scene, that thing that continues to drive you. So Asian or not, you have to have that. And I think that's the biggest obstacle. As an Asian actor, I think, do your work, get better. The opportunity is going to show up. We're going to make sure it shows up. We have a whole army of people going to make sure it shows up. But you better be freaking ready for that. Don't be lazy. Go do the work. Go do classes. Go do your improv stuff. So when you get in that audition and you get that opportunity, you can hit it out of the park. It'll make our job a lot easier, and you'll get your opportunity.
Pleasure meeting you, Jon.
Honor to meet you.
Best of luck, man.
Thank you.
Thanks to my guest, Jon M Chu. Make sure to catch Crazy Rich Asians out August 15th. It's really a fun movie. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things, and I'll see you next time.